Hi, this is Bob Gersh with East Coast Capital, and today's topic, why we aren't headed for a housing crash. Why we aren't headed for a housing crash. If you're holding out hope that the housing market is going to crash and bring home prices back down, here's a look at what the data shows. And spoiler alert, that's not in the cards. Instead, experts say home prices are going to keep going up. Today's market is very different than it was before the housing crash in 2008. Here's why. It's harder to get a loan now, and it's actually a good thing. It was much easier to get a home loan during the lead up to the 2008 housing crisis than it is today. Back then, banks had different lending standards, making it easier for just about anyone to qualify for a home loan or refinance an existing one. Things are different today. Homebuyers face increasingly higher standards from mortgage companies. The graph on my blog at askbobgersh.com uses data from the Mortgage Bankers Association to show this difference. The lower the number, the harder it is to get a mortgage. The higher the number, the easier it is. The peak in the graph shows that back then, lending standards weren't as strict as they are now. That means lending institutions took on much greater risk in both person and the mortgage products offered around the crash. That led to mass defaults and a flood of foreclosures coming onto the market. There are far fewer homes for sale today, so prices won't crash. Because there were too many homes for sale during the housing crisis, many of which were short sales and foreclosures, that caused home prices to fall dramatically. But today, there's an inventory shortage, not a surplus. The graph on my blog at askbobgersh.com uses data from the National Association of Realtors and the Federal Reserve to show how the month supply of homes available now, shown in blue, compares to the crash shown in red. Today, unsold inventory sits at just 3 months supply. That's compared to the peak of 10.4 months supply back in 2008. That means there's nowhere near enough inventory on the market for home prices to come crashing down like they did back then. People are not using their homes as ATMs like they did in the early 2000s. Back in the lead up to the housing crash, many homeowners were borrowing against the equity in their homes to finance new cars, boats, and vacations. So when prices started to fall, as inventory rose too high, many of those homeowners found themselves underwater. But today, homeowners are a lot more cautious. Even though prices have skyrocketed in the past few years, homeowners aren't tapping into their equity the way they did back then. Black Knight reports that tappable equity, the amount of equity available for homeowners to access before hitting a maximum 80% loan-to-value ratio, has actually reached an all-time high. That means, as a whole, homeowners have more equity available than ever before. And that's great. Homeowners are in a much stronger position than in the early 2000s. The same report from Black Knight goes on to explain only 1.1% of mortgage holders, 582,000, ended the year underwater, down from 1.5%, 807,000, at this time last year. And since homeowners are on more solid footing today, they'll have options to avoid foreclosure. That limits the number of distressed properties coming onto the market. And without the flood of inventory, prices won't come tumbling down. The bottom line, while you may be hoping for something that brings prices down, that's not what the data tells us is going to happen. The most current research clearly shows that today's market is nothing like it was last time. This is Bob Gersh with East Coast Capital. It is blog, video, and podcast Monday through Friday at askbobgersh.com. If you have any questions, please reach out to me through askbobgersh.com. If you see me at a local coffee shop, tap me on the shoulder, let's sit down and have coffee and talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. If you are planning in the next year to either buy or sell a house and looking for information on how to have your listing posted on our TV channel, please give us a phone call at 781-454-7138. Have a great rest of the day, great rest of the week. Enjoy life. If I can be any service, just reach out through askbobgersh.com. Until next time, thank you.